Imagine this. You're blowing out candles on your 38th birthday, surrounded by family, and instead of presents, your husband and children hand you divorce papers and an eviction notice from the house you bought. That's exactly what happened to me on March 15th. But what they didn't know was that while helping my husband prepare his IPO documents, I discovered secrets that could destroy his entire empire, and I'd kept silent until they chose to betray me. My name is Evelyn Paxton, 38 years old, and this is the story of how I turned the worst day of my life into the best beginning I could have imagined. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. 15 years ago, I was Evelyn Morrison, Harvard Law graduate, Order of the Coif, with offers from 3 top firms in Manhattan. I chose Preston and Associates, where I was fast-tracking toward partner. Then I met Marcus at a tech conference my firm was sponsoring. He was brilliant, ambitious, and completely broke, just another startup founder with big dreams and empty pockets. When I got pregnant with Harper, Marcus convinced me to take a break from law. Just until the company gets funding, he'd said, his hands on my growing belly. You're the only one I trust to raise our children right. I was making $200,000 a year. He was making nothing, living off ramen and hope. My mother had just passed, leaving me $300,000. Marcus needed credibility for investors. A CEO without a home didn't inspire confidence. So I bought the house in Palo Alto, but put it in his name. You're mine, I'm yours. What difference does a name make? He'd said, kissing me as I signed the deed transfer. I remember the notary asking if I was sure. I laughed and said yes. For 15 years, I managed everything. Not just cooking and cleaning, I handled our personal finances, scheduled his meetings, edited his pitches, even helped debug code when the team was just 3 guys in our garage. When Ryan was born, Marcus's company had grown to 50 employees. By Harper's 10th birthday, it was 200. Last year, they hit 500 employees and started IPO preparations. But somewhere along the way, I became invisible. Harper would tell her friends, "My mom doesn't do anything, she just stays home." Ryan stopped asking for help with homework. Dad was the genius after all. And Marcus? He stopped seeing me entirely. The transformation was gradual, like erosion, so slow you don't notice until the cliff is gone. Marcus started calling me Han instead of Evelyn. Then it became hey, or just expecting me to appear when needed. Board dinners where I smiled and made his colleagues' wives feel welcome. He'd introduce me as the wife while elaborating on everyone else's credentials. I kept my law license active, completing continuing education credits every year. Why bother? Marcus would laugh when the renewal notices came. It's not like you'll ever use it. I'd file the certificates quietly, telling myself it was just backup, just in case. The kids absorbed his attitude like sponges. Harper at 15 started critiquing my clothes. God, Mom, do you own anything that isn't from Target? She'd roll her eyes when I mentioned my education. That was literally decades ago. Dad's building the future. Ryan was gentler but still distant, bonding with Marcus over code while I became the invisible force that kept their lives running smoothly. I cataloged every sacrifice in my mind, the partnership track abandoned, the professional network withered, the identity erased, replaced with Marcus's wife or Harper and Ryan's mom. Even our couple friends were all from Marcus's world, founders, VCs, tech executives who'd pat my hand and ask about the kids while their wives discussed their careers. The loneliest moment? Last year's company holiday party. Marcus gave a speech thanking everyone who built the company. He named 50 people. The janitor got a mention. I stood there in my carefully chosen dress, the one he hadn't noticed, holding his coat, invisible. Jessica Wang, his CFO, stood beside him on stage, radiant in designer clothes, sharing inside jokes about term sheets and valuations. That night, I knew something had shifted. I just didn't know how far it had already gone. 6 months before my birthday, everything changed. Marcus asked me to help organize his files for the IPO documentation. You're so good with details, hun, he'd said, dumping boxes of papers on my desk. The lawyers need everything digitized and categorized. That's when I found them, the discrepancies, invoices that didn't match, payments to companies that existed only on paper, a network of offshore accounts in the Caymans and Bermuda. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Marcus was brilliant but disorganized. Maybe he'd just been sloppy with the books. But the deeper I dug, the clearer the pattern became. $50 million siphoned through 15 shell companies over 3 years, money that should have gone to R&D, to salaries, to investors, instead flowing into accounts controlled by Marcus and someone identified only as JW in the encrypted files. My hands trembled as I photographed every document, uploaded everything to a cloud account Marcus didn't know existed. The lawyer in me, dormant for so long, suddenly awakened. Document everything, create redundancies, establish timelines. Then I remembered the prenup. We'd signed it 2 weeks before our wedding, Marcus insisting it would protect both of us. I hadn't looked at it in 15 years. It took me 3 hours to find it in the old safe in the basement, the one Marcus thought I didn't know the combination to. Our wedding date, how romantic. The document was yellowed but legal, and there in Section 7, subsection 3. In the event of infidelity or financial fraud, the offending party forfeits 80% of all marital assets. Marcus's signature bold and confident, the notary seal still raised under my fingers. I made 3 copies that night, one for the safe deposit box Marcus didn't know about, one hidden in my mother's old jewelry box, one uploaded to the cloud. Then I waited. The signs accumulated like storm clouds. Marcus started working late, but his shirt smelled like La Perla perfume, not office coffee. He'd take calls in the garage, voice low and intimate. When I'd enter, he'd switch to speaker, the conversation suddenly all business. "Just going over the prospectus with Jessica," he'd say. Jessica Wang, 32, Stanford MBA, with legs that went on forever and ambition that filled every room. Harper became cruel in specific ways. "Mom, maybe you should skip the IPO party. It's for people who actually contributed to the company." When I mentioned maybe returning to law after Ryan graduated, she laughed. "Who would hire you? You're basically unemployable now." The words stung more because I saw Marcus's smirk behind her. Ryan avoided eye contact entirely. My sweet boy who used to crawl into bed with me during thunderstorms now walked past me like I was furniture. Once I caught him typing a text, saw the word "mom" before he quickly deleted it and left the room. Then came the email. Sent to my address by mistake. Marcus had given his lawyer the wrong Paxton email. Dissolution paperwork ready for review. Asset allocation as discussed. Wife has no claim given lack of contribution. Standard no contest clause included. My birthday was 3 days away. Marcus mentioned a big surprise planned, told me to be home by noon. Harper and Ryan exchanged glances, the kind teenagers share when they know something you don't. I spent those 3 days backing up everything. Every document, every photo, every proof of my existence in this family. The woman who'd been invisible for so long was about to disappear completely, but not in the way they planned. "Just wait until your birthday," Marcus said that morning, kissing my forehead. "Everything's going to change." He was right about that. Have you ever felt like the people you love most are the ones who hurt you the deepest? I need to know I'm not alone here. Drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from, and if you've ever been blindsided by family betrayal. And please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because what happens next in my story, well, you won't believe how fast karma can work when the universe decides it's time. Let me continue. March 15th arrived gray and drizzling, matching my mood. Marcus was unusually cheerful at breakfast, humming while he made coffee, something he hadn't done in years. "Remember, family meeting at noon," he said, squeezing my shoulder. "Don't be late." Harper and Ryan were already home from school when I returned from my morning grocery run. They sat at the dining room table, faces carefully neutral. The table was set with our good china, a chocolate cake, my favorite, centered between 2 thick manila envelopes. But it was the 3 strangers in suits that made my stomach drop. "Evelyn, come sit," Marcus said, pulling out my usual chair. His voice had that CEO tone, the one he used for firing people. "I want you to meet David Brennan, my attorney, Michelle Torres, our notary, and James Liu, financial advisor." Jessica Wang sat at Marcus's right hand, where I usually sat for family dinners. She wore a cream silk blouse and a diamond ring on her left hand. Not an engagement ring, not yet, but the message was clear. Her hand rested on Marcus's arm, proprietary and confident. "What's going on?" I asked, though I already knew. The prenup copies hidden in 3 places seemed to pulse with importance. Marcus cleared his throat. "Evelyn, we need to discuss our future, or rather, our separate futures." He pushed the first envelope toward me. "We've had a good run, but it's time to be honest. This isn't working anymore." Harper leaned forward, eyes bright with something that looked like excitement. "Mom, just listen to Dad. He's being really generous considering..." "Considering what? Considering I'd given up everything? Considering I'd built the foundation his empire stood on?" The lawyers opened their briefcases in perfect synchronization, like they'd rehearsed this. The cake sat untouched, 38 unlit candles waiting for a wish that wouldn't come. David Brennan spread 3 sets of documents across the table like a dealer showing cards. Mrs. Paxton, we have here the dissolution papers, the property settlement, and a waiver of claims. His voice was professionally sympathetic, the kind reserved for delivering terminal diagnoses. The house? I asked, my voice steady despite the earthquake in my chest. Was purchased during the marriage with community funds, Marcus said smoothly, but as the sole name on the deed and the one who's maintained it. With my inheritance, I interrupted, which you gifted to the marriage. He didn't even blink. The point is, you have no legal claim. However, I'm giving you 30 days to relocate. That's more than required. Harper couldn't contain herself anymore. Mom, you're pathetic. Dad supported you for 15 years while you did nothing. You should be grateful he's not just throwing you out today. The words hit like physical blows. My daughter, whose first word was mama, whose hand I'd held through 13 hours of labor, looked at me like I was garbage. Ryan stared at his phone, but I saw his hands shaking. Dad says you'll get alimony, he mumbled. That's fair, right? $5,000 a month for 2 years, Brennan confirmed. Quite generous for a spouse with no documented income or contribution to Mr. Paxton's business success. Jessica finally spoke, her voice honeyed poison. Evelyn, this is best for everyone. You can finally find yourself. Maybe update that ancient law degree. She smiled, perfect teeth gleaming. I mean, if anyone would even recognize it anymore. I picked up the pen, feeling its weight. 3 copies of a prenup hidden away. 50 million in fraud documented, FBI admissible evidence uploaded to the cloud. They thought they were taking everything from me. I started signing, my hand perfectly steady. I signed my name slowly, deliberately, the pen moving across paper with the same precision I'd once used on million-dollar contracts. Evelyn Marie Paxton. Each letter formed perfectly. No trembling, no tears. That's it? Marcus asked, surprise flickering across his face. No arguments, no begging. I set the pen down and looked at each person at the table. My husband of 15 years who thought he'd played the perfect game. My children who'd been turned into weapons against me. The lawyers already calculating their fees. Jessica, glowing with triumph. I understand completely, I said, standing with the same grace I'd learned at Harvard Law. You've all made your positions very clear. Harper's smirk faltered slightly. She'd expected tears, hysteria, the breakdown they could point to as proof of my instability. Instead, I walked to the hallway closet and pulled out the small suitcase I'd packed 3 days ago. My laptop bag. The box of personal items that included every backup drive, every document scan, every piece of evidence. You're just leaving? Ryan asked, finally looking up from his phone. I paused at his chair, touched his shoulder gently. He flinched. You'll understand someday, I said. Harper laughed, ugly and sharp. God, even now you're so dramatic. Just go already. I picked up my purse, checking that my phone was recording, audio only, legal in California if you're part of the conversation. Mr. Brennan, I assume you'll email me copies of everything? Of course, he said, clearly relieved this was going smoothly. At the door, I turned back one last time. Marcus had already pulled Jessica closer, their bodies angled together like magnets. The chocolate cake still sat pristine, waiting for a celebration that had already started without me. Happy birthday to me, I whispered, and walked out. The Comfort Inn off of Highway 101 wasn't the Ritz, but it was clean and anonymous. $69 a night, paid in cash from the emergency fund Marcus never knew I kept. I set up my laptop on the small desk, connected to the Wi-Fi, and pulled up the encrypted folder labeled Insurance. $50 million in fraudulent transfers stared back at me from the screen. Screenshots, bank records, emails between Marcus and JW, Jessica Wang, of course. 3 years of methodical theft from investors disguised as consulting fees and R&D expenses. My phone buzzed. Sarah Smith. We'd kept her maiden name in my contacts so Marcus wouldn't recognize his wife's former Harvard Law roommate, who now worked as a federal prosecutor. Ev, I got your message. Are you okay? I'm fine, but I have something you need to see. Can you meet me tonight? The Starbucks on University Avenue, 8 o'clock? Perfect. I spent the next 3 hours organizing everything into a prosecutable case. Financial crimes were like puzzles. You needed every piece in the right place. The FBI would want clear evidence chains, documented patterns, verifiable damages. By the time I was done, I had a 40-page summary with appendices that would make any prosecutor weep with joy. Sarah arrived 15 minutes early. Still in her court suit, she took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. Then I showed her the laptop screen. She was silent for 30 seconds, scrolling through the evidence. Her prosecutor's mask slipped, revealing shock, then something like awe. "Evelyn," she said finally, "this is huge. FBI huge, SEC huge, federal prison huge." "I know," I said, taking a sip of my cold coffee. "The IPO roadshow is next week. 200 investors." Sarah smiled, sharp as a blade. "Then we better move fast." The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit operated from a nondescript building in San Francisco. Sarah had arranged an emergency meeting with Agent Morrison, a woman who looked like she could audit your soul with a glance. We sat in a conference room that smelled like burnt coffee and justice. "Mrs. Paxton, walk me through this again," Morrison said, fingers flying across her laptop as I spoke. 3 years ago, Marcus started routing company funds through shell corporations in the Caymans. Here, I pulled up the spreadsheet. You can see $50 million, disguised as consulting fees, to companies that don't exist except on paper. Morrison leaned forward. "How did you obtain these documents?" "Legally. My husband asked me to help prepare IPO documentation. He gave me full access to all company files." I showed her the email trail. "I have written authorization." Sarah interjected. "There's more. Show her the prenup." I produced the original document, watched Morrison's eyes widen at Section 7, subsection 3. "This is ironclad," she said. "With fraud proven, you'd get 80% of all marital assets." "It's not about the money," I said, then reconsidered. "Well, not just about the money. He's about to defraud 200 investors next week." Morrison made a call. Within an hour, 3 more agents arrived. We went through everything: offshore accounts, fake invoices, the works. Jessica Wang's involvement became clearer with each document. She wasn't just his mistress. She was his partner in crime. "Mrs. Paxton," Morrison said finally, "you qualify for whistleblower protection. If this leads to prosecution and recovery of funds, you could receive up to 30% of what we recover." 30% of 50 million? I asked. "Minimum. Could be more if we uncover additional fraud." For the first time in days, I genuinely smiled. The FBI worked fast. Within 48 hours, they had undercover agents inside Marcus's company, posing as IPO consultants. I sat in a surveillance van, wearing a wire, as they coached me through a phone call to Marcus's office. "Hi, it's Evelyn. I left some personal items in the home office safe. Can I come by when you're at work?" "Make it quick," Marcus said, distracted, "and leave your key when you're done." The personal items were more evidence. Marcus, in his arrogance, had never changed the safe combination. Our wedding date. How romantic, how stupid. Inside, I found what the FBI needed: the original incorporation documents with forged investor signatures, USB drives with encrypted files, and, jackpot, a handwritten ledger where Marcus tracked the real money flow. Every password Marcus ever used followed a pattern, I told Agent Morrison, writing them down. Harper 2007 for our daughter's birth year, IPO to $2025 for the company's systems. He thought he was clever, adding symbols. Morrison's team cracked into the company servers within hours. The evidence was overwhelming. Not just fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, RICO violations. Jessica Wang's digital fingerprints were everywhere, co-signing transfers, authorizing payments to shell companies she controlled. "There's something else," one of the tech agents said, pulling up an email thread. "They're planning to flee. Tickets to Switzerland booked for March 23rd, the day after the IPO roadshow." "One-way tickets," Valerie Sansno said. They knew this was their last score. I thought about Harper and Ryan, about to lose their father to federal prison. "My children, they don't know any of this." Sarah squeezed my hand. "We'll handle it carefully, but Evelyn, they need to know the truth." The IPO roadshow was in 4 days. The trap was set. The truth about my children's involvement came from Marcus's own emails. Agent Morrison showed me the messages, her face sympathetic but professional. "6 months ago, your husband started poisoning them against you," she said, pulling up a thread between Marcus and Harper. "Look at this." The emails were devastating. Marcus had created fake documents suggesting I'd had an affair with a fictional personal trainer, photoshopped pictures of me entering a hotel I'd never visited, bank statements altered to show suspicious withdrawals I'd never made. "He told them you were planning to leave," Morrison continued. "Said you'd been stealing from the family to fund your exit." Ryan's messages were heartbreaking. "Dad, are you sure? Mom doesn't seem like—" But Marcus had shut him down. "Your mother is a master manipulator, son. She had you both fooled." "There's more," Morrison said gently. He promised them trust funds from the IPO, $50,000 each for college, but only if they supported him during the divorce. I stared at the screen, numb. "He bought my children." "He manipulated them," Sarah corrected. "There's a difference." Morrison pulled up another document. "We found this in Ryan's deleted texts. He tried to warn you." The message never sent read, "Mom, I'm sorry. Dad made us promise. He said you were leaving anyway." Harper had been more enthusiastic, her messages full of venom. Finally getting rid of the dead weight, she'd written to her friends. Dad's new girlfriend is actually successful. But even Harper had moments of doubt. A diary entry pulled from her cloud backup. "Mom looked so sad today. Maybe we're wrong, but Dad says—" "We'll make sure they know the truth," Morrison promised. "Once this is over, they'll need therapy, but they'll understand." I nodded, tears finally coming. Not for me, but for my babies who'd been weaponized against their own mother, March 22nd. The IPO roadshow was tomorrow at the Ritz-Carlton. Marcus had been texting me, gloating disguised as concern. "Hope you found a place. Movers coming to the house Monday." I responded simply, "All handled. Good luck with the presentation." The FBI had everything in place. 30 agents would be positioned throughout the hotel. The arrest warrants were signed, sealed, and ready. Marcus's company was about to be valued at $500 million based on fraudulent numbers, and 200 investors were about to be saved from the scam of the decade. Sarah came to my hotel room that evening with a garment bag. "You're going to be there," she said. "You deserve to see this." Inside was a suit I hadn't worn in 15 years. My lucky court suit from my days at Preston and Associates. Navy blue, perfectly tailored, the one I'd worn when I'd won my first $1 million case. "It still fits?" I said, surprised. "You need to look like the lawyer you are when this goes down," Sarah said. "Not the discarded wife. The prosecutor who brought down a $500 million fraud." Agent Morrison called with final details. "We'll move in at exactly 10:47 a.m., right when he's presenting the financial projections. Maximum witnesses, maximum impact. The media's been tipped off, anonymously, of course." "What about my children?" "School resource officers are on standby to pull them out of class gently. They'll be brought to the FBI offices where counselors are waiting." I stood at the window, looking out at the city lights. Tomorrow, Marcus would wake up thinking he was about to become king of Silicon Valley. Instead, he'd be leaving in handcuffs. "You ready for this?" Sarah asked. "I've been ready since he handed me those divorce papers," I said. "He just didn't know it." 48 hours before the roadshow, the universe decided to test my resolve. An eviction notice arrived at my hotel, forwarded from the house. Final notice: vacate premises by March 24th. Marcus had paid extra to have it delivered on a Saturday, ensuring maximum humiliation. Then he called, voice dripping with false concern. "Evelyn, just checking you found a place. I worry about you, despite everything." "Yes, I found my place," I said, looking at my FBI witness protection documents. "Thank you for your concern." Good. Hey, the kids want to know if you need help moving your things. We could hire someone." "That won't be necessary." He laughed, that CEO laugh I'd once found charming. "Always so proud. That's your problem, Ev. You never knew when to accept help." After he hung up, I checked Instagram. Harper had posted a photo of Jessica helping her with college applications. The caption, "So grateful for strong female role models. #new beginnings. #fresh start. #no dead weight." The comments from her friends were cruel. "Finally, your dad upgraded. Your real mom seems cool." One friend, though, had written, "But your mom was always nice to us?" Harper had replied, "You don't know the whole story." Ryan hadn't posted anything, but his friend's mom had tagged him at a coffee shop, looking miserable. The mother had messaged me privately. "Evelyn, I don't know what's happening, but Ryan seems really upset. Is everything okay?" I didn't reply. In 48 hours, everyone would know everything. That night, I practiced my walk into the Ritz-Carlton. Shoulders back, head high, every inch the Harvard lawyer I'd once been. Marcus thought he'd broken me. He was about to learn that some things, once forged in fire, don't break. They just get stronger. The emergency hearing at family court was scheduled for 8 a.m., just hours before the IPO roadshow. Judge Martinez, known for her no-nonsense approach to financial fraud in divorce cases, reviewed the prenup with laser focus. "Mr. Paxton," she said, adjusting her glasses, "did you sign this prenuptial agreement?" Marcus's divorce attorney, David Brennan, shifted uncomfortably. They'd been summoned on emergency notice, thinking it was about expediting the eviction. "Your Honor, we weren't aware any prenup existed." "That's not what I asked." Judge Martinez held up the document. "Mr. Paxton, is this your signature?" Marcus went pale. Yes, but that was 15 years ago. And it's still legally binding. Section 7, subsection 3 is quite clear. In the event of infidelity or financial fraud, the offending party forfeits 80% of marital assets. She looked at the FBI files Sarah had submitted under seal. The evidence of both is overwhelming. "Your Honor," Brennan stammered, "we need time to review." "You had 15 years to review it. I'm issuing an immediate injunction freezing all asset transfers. Furthermore, the house deed," she pulled up the records, "shows the purchase was made with funds traceable to Mrs. Paxton's inheritance. The transfer to Mr. Paxton's name appears to have been made under duress and false pretenses." Jessica Wang, who'd accompanied Marcus, stood up. "This is ridiculous. She's nothing but a—" "Ma'am, you're not a party to this case. Sit down or leave." Judge Martinez turned to me. "Mrs. Paxton, your prenuptial agreement is valid and enforceable. The freeze on assets is effective immediately. Any attempt to move money or property will be considered contempt." Marcus's face cycled through rage, disbelief, and fear. "You planned this," he hissed at me. "No," I said quietly, you did. 15 years ago." At 9 a.m., while Marcus rushed to his IPO preparation, FBI agents sat with Harper and Ryan in a conference room at their school. The principal had called them out of class quietly, saying there was a family emergency. Agent Morrison had brought a child psychologist, Dr. Amanda Chen, who specialized in parental alienation cases. She laid out the evidence gently but clearly. "Your father created these documents," Dr. Chen showed them the fake affair evidence. "None of this is real. Your mother never had an affair. These bank statements were altered. The hotel records were fabricated." Harper's face crumbled. But, Dad said, "Your father was having an affair with Jessica Wang," Morrison continued, showing them time-stamped photos and messages. "For 2 years, he needed you to turn against your mother so she wouldn't fight the divorce." Ryan was crying silently. "The trust funds he promised us? That money was stolen from investors. It never belonged to your family." Harper suddenly stood up, ran to the corner, and threw up in the wastebasket. When she could speak, she whispered, "I called her pathetic. I called my own mother pathetic." Dr. Chen handed her tissues. "You were manipulated by someone you trusted. That's not your fault." "We helped him," Ryan said, voice breaking. "We helped him steal from her. The house, Mom bought that house. She gave up her job for us." Morrison pulled up one more document. "We found this in the attic of your house." It was my Harvard Law diploma. Order of the Coif, top 10% of the class. Harper stared at it, then at her hands. "She was brilliant. She gave it up. For us. And we—" She couldn't finish. "Your mother loves you," Dr. Chen said. "That never changed, even when you hurt her." The morning of March 23rd arrived crisp and clear. I stood in front of the hotel mirror, adjusting the navy suit that had once made opposing counsel nervous. 15 years in storage, but it fit like armor, like destiny. Sarah arrived with Agent Morrison and a small team. The Ritz-Carlton is secured, 30 agents in position. Media vans are parked outside, thinking they're covering a standard IPO announcement. "They'll get a better story," Morrison said, checking her watch. "Marcus and Jessica arrived 20 minutes ago. They're in the green room celebrating with champagne." I thought about Harper and Ryan, now in protective custody with counselors, learning the full truth about their father's crimes. They'd asked to see me, but I wasn't ready. Not yet. "The investors are arriving," Sarah reported, checking her phone. 200 of Silicon Valley's finest, ready to throw money at a criminal enterprise. Morrison handed me a federal witness badge. "This gets you in. You'll sit in the back until we move. Once we arrest him, you can approach if you want." "I want," I said, pinning the badge inside my jacket. The drive to the Ritz-Carlton took 15 minutes. 15 minutes of remembering every sacrifice, every moment of invisibility, every dismissive laugh. The valet who took my keys, a rental car, nothing fancy, didn't recognize me as Marcus Paxton's wife. Good. The ballroom was packed. Marcus stood at the podium, confident and commanding, Jessica beside him in a red dress that screamed power. The presentation screens showed charts and projections, all built on lies and stolen money. I took my seat in the back row. Sarah sat beside me, squeezing my hand. "You ready?" she whispered. I looked at my watch. 10:43 a.m. 4 minutes until justice. I've been ready for 15 years. Oh my goodness, are you still with me? My heart is racing just reliving this moment. The story is about to reach its climax, and I promise you won't be disappointed. If you've ever felt undervalued or overlooked, type karma in the comments right now. And please share this video with anyone who needs to hear that their worth doesn't depend on someone else's validation. The next few minutes changed everything. My life, my children's lives, and the lives of 200 investors who almost lost millions. Here we go. The morning of March 23rd, Marcus was in his element. I watched him from my seat as he worked the room before his presentation, shaking hands with venture capitalists, laughing with investment bankers. Jessica circled beside him, her hand occasionally touching his arm, marking territory. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus announced at 10:30 a.m. "Before we begin the formal presentation, I want to share something personal. This company isn't just a business. It's a testament to what's possible when you refuse to be held back." Several investors nodded appreciatively. "Sometimes," he continued, "you have to cut dead weight to soar, make hard choices, remove obstacles." He glanced at Jessica, who smiled. "Surround yourself with excellence." My phone buzzed. A text from Harper. "Mom, I'm so sorry. We're watching the news. I love you." I typed back, "I love you too. Always have." Marcus clicked to his first slide. Technova Industries, a $500 million future. The room murmured appreciatively. The numbers looked impressive. Revenue projections, user growth, market penetration, all fiction, built on a foundation of stolen money and forged documents. "Our CFO, Jessica Wang, will walk you through the financials," Marcus said, gesturing to her. She stepped forward, radiant with confidence. "Thank you, Marcus. And may I add personally that it's an honor to be part of this journey with such a visionary leader." She leaned into the microphone, both professionally and personally. A few investors chuckled knowingly. Others shifted uncomfortably. Mixing business and pleasure was always risky. I looked at my watch. 10:45 a.m. 2 minutes. Agent Morrison's voice crackled through Sarah's earpiece. "All units in position." Marcus clicked to slide 15, the one showing the offshore accounts as International Expansion Funds. 10:47 a.m. The ballroom doors burst open. While Marcus was presenting to investors, Harper and Ryan were in the FBI's Family Services office, desperately trying to reach me. The full weight of their betrayal had crashed down on them like a tsunami. "Please," Harper begged Dr. Chen. "I need to talk to her. I need to explain." "Your mother is unavailable right now," Dr. Chen said gently, "but you can write her a letter." Harper's phone showed 15 missed calls to my number. Her text grew increasingly frantic. "Mom, I'm so sorry. Dad lied to us about everything. Please pick up." "I didn't mean what I said. You're not pathetic. I am. Mom, please." Ryan had left a voicemail, his voice broken. "Mom, it's Ryan. We were wrong. Dad showed us fake stuff and we believed him because we're idiots. You gave up everything for us. You're the strongest person I know. Please don't hate us. Please come back." They'd tried to go to my hotel, but I'd already checked out. The front desk clerk told them I'd left that morning in a Navy suit, looking like a woman on a mission. "Where would she go?" Harper asked Ryan frantically. Then they saw the news alert on Harper's phone. "Technova IPO presentation today at Ritz-Carlton." "Oh my God," Harper gasped. "She's going to confront him, in front of everyone." They begged Dr. Chen to take them to the hotel, but she refused. "Your mother needs to do this her way. You'll see her when she's ready." Harper found the divorce papers in her backpack. She'd kept a copy to gloat over. Now she saw what she'd missed: the forged signatures, the fraudulent asset transfers, the systematic theft of everything her mother had built. "We helped him destroy her," she whispered, "and she still loves us." I entered the Ritz-Carlton at 10:15 a.m., 32 minutes before the scheduled takedown. The lobby was buzzing with Silicon Valley elite, venture capitalists comparing portfolios, tech journalists hunting for quotes, eager entrepreneurs hoping to network their way to the next big thing. Security stopped me at the ballroom entrance. Name: Evelyn Paxton. The guard checked his list, frowned. I don't see you here. This is an invite-only event. I pulled out the federal witness badge, keeping it low so only he could see it. His eyes widened. Oh, yes, ma'am. Back row, as discussed. The ballroom was magnificent. Crystal chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay, round tables with white linens and tech company centerpieces. 200 seats, all filling up with people about to witness history, just not the kind they expected. I chose a seat in the last row, right side, with a clear view of both the stage and the exits. A few people glanced at me, trying to place my face. One woman, the wife of a prominent VC, did a double take. Evelyn, is that you? I smiled politely. Hello, Catherine. I haven't seen you in months. Marcus said you were traveling? Something like that. She wanted to ask more, but the lights dimmed, showtime approaching. I watched Marcus glad-handing in the front, Jessica adjusting his tie with wifely familiarity. They looked perfect together, the power couple of Silicon Valley, ready to conquer the world with other people's money. My phone vibrated. Agent Morrison. T-20, all units ready. I typed back. In position. Sarah slipped in beside me, dressed like any other investor's wife. You good? I straightened my suit jacket, feeling the weight of the moment. Never better. The lights dimmed further. Marcus took the stage. Marcus commanded the stage like he was born for it. The presentation was flawless. Smooth transitions, compelling narrative, charts that painted a picture of inevitable success. If I didn't know the truth, I'd be reaching for my checkbook too. What you're seeing here, Marcus said, clicking to slide 12, is not just growth, it's exponential acceleration. Our burn rate is negligible compared to our revenue trajectory. Lies. The burn rate was hidden in offshore accounts. The revenue was inflated by fake customers and shell companies. Jessica took over for the financial deep dive, her voice confident and clear. Our EBITDA projections for Q3 show a 300% increase, driven by our expansion into Asian markets. The Asian markets that didn't exist. The expansion that was actually money laundering through Hong Kong and Singapore. 10:46 a.m. Now, Marcus said, returning to the podium. Before we open for questions, I want to address something personal. Building this company required sacrifices, hard choices. Sometimes you have to leave the past behind to embrace the future. He was talking about me. In front of 200 people, he was celebrating discarding me. Success demands we surround ourselves with excellence, with people who share our vision, people who contribute. He smiled at Jessica. Not those who simply exist. A few uncomfortable chuckles from the audience. Most stayed silent, sensing something off. I whispered to Sarah, he's really going to do this. He's going to gloat about divorcing me to sell his company. 10 seconds, Sarah whispered back, touching her earpiece. Marcus clicked to slide 15, the one showing the offshore accounts labeled as International Expansion Reserves. As you can see, we're positioned for global domination. 10:47 a.m., the ballroom doors exploded open. FBI, nobody move! 30 FBI agents flooded the ballroom like a tactical tsunami. FBI, everyone remain seated. This is a federal operation. Marcus froze mid-sentence, his laser pointer clattering to the floor. The slide behind him, International Expansion Reserves, suddenly looked like Evidence Exhibit A. Agent Morrison strode down the center aisle, badge high, voice carrying over the chaos. Marcus Paxton, you're under arrest for money laundering, wire fraud, tax evasion, and conspiracy to defraud investors. The room erupted. Investors scrambled for phones, journalists for cameras. Someone knocked over a pitcher of water, and it spread across the white tablecloth like spilled secrets. This is a mistake, Marcus shouted, backing away from the podium. I have lawyers. You'll need them. Morrison climbed onto the stage. Hands behind your back. The cuffs clicked with beautiful finality. The sound system was still on, broadcasting every word to the stunned audience. You have the right to remain silent, Morrison began, her voice echoing through the speakers. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. A CNBC reporter had somehow gotten inside, camera rolling. This would be on every financial network within minutes. Marcus's eyes scanned the crowd wildly, looking for allies, for help, for anyone who might save him. They found me instead, standing now in the back row. His face went white, then red, then a shade I'd never seen before. The color of a man realizing he'd been played by someone he'd dismissed as nothing. You, He breathed into the still, live microphone. You did this. I said nothing, just stood there in my Navy suit, the one I'd worn when I was somebody before I'd given it all up for him. Morrison continued reading his rights, each word a nail in the coffin of his empire. Jessica Wang tried to run. She made it 3 steps before Agent Davis caught her arm. Ms. Wang, you're under arrest for conspiracy, money laundering, majoring, and wire fraud. No! She struggled, her red designer dress tearing at the shoulder. I didn't do anything. This is all Marcus. Really? Morrison pulled out a tablet, showing an email. This is your authorization for a $50 million transfer to a Cayman Islands account you control. Your signature, your password, your IP address. The microphone was still broadcasting everything. 200 investors heard every word. Marcus made me do it, Jessica screamed, mascara running in black rivers. He said it was legal. He said, save it for your lawyer, Davis said, producing handcuffs. That's when the second bombshell dropped. Another agent stepped forward. Ms. Wang, you're also under arrest for bigamy. You're currently married to James Chen in Los Angeles. The room gasped collectively. Marcus's head snapped toward Jessica. You're what? It was being annulled, Jessica cried. James meant nothing. Unlike the felonies you just confessed to on a hot mic, Morrison noted dryly. They cuffed her right there on stage next to Marcus. The power couple of Silicon Valley, side by side in steel bracelets. The presentation screen behind them still showed their fraudulent projections, now evidence in a federal case. This is that bitch's doing, Jessica screamed, looking directly at me. Evelyn set us up, Morrison smiled coldly. You mean the federal witness who provided evidence of your crimes? Yes, Mrs. Paxton has been very helpful. The CNBC camera caught it all. Jessica Wang, the brilliant CFO, the other woman, the co-conspirator, being led away in handcuffs while her Louboutins clicked against the stage floor like a countdown to prison. I walked down the center aisle, slowly, deliberately. Every step measured. 200 pairs of eyes tracked my movement. The woman they'd dismissed at parties, whose name they'd forgotten, whose existence they'd deemed irrelevant. The FBI agents parted as I approached the stage. Marcus and Jessica stood there in cuffs, their empire in ruins at their feet. I climbed the 3 steps to the platform, my heels echoing in the silent ballroom. Hello, Marcus. He lunged toward me, but the agents held him back. You destroyed everything. You vindictive? No. My voice was calm, carrying through the microphone. You destroyed everything. I just documented it. I turned to face the investors, these titans of Silicon Valley who'd almost handed over millions to a criminal. Gentlemen, ladies, I'm Evelyn Paxton, the invisible wife, the one who didn't contribute, the one Marcus was so proud to discard. I clicked the presentation remote, still lying on the podium. The screen changed from Marcus's fraudulent projections to a new slide. Our prenuptial agreement, Section 7, Subsection 3, highlighted in yellow. 15 years ago, Marcus insisted on this prenup. In the event of infidelity or financial fraud, the offending party forfeits 80% of marital assets. Marcus thought he was protecting himself from me. I smiled. He was actually writing his own confession. The room buzzed with whispers. Someone said, "She's still a lawyer, Harvard Law." The real financials are in your FBI evidence packets, I continued. $50 million, stolen, 2 years of affairs, 15 years of my life given to build something on a foundation of lies. I looked at Marcus one last time. You forgot something, Marcus. I didn't just stay home for 15 years. I was paying attention. Then I walked off the stage, leaving them there in their handcuffs and their humiliation. I was almost to the ballroom doors when I heard them. Harper's voice, high and desperate, Ryan's cracking with emotion. Dr. Chen had brought them after all, probably deciding they needed to see this for closure. Mom! Harper broke free from Dr. Chen, running toward me in her school uniform, face streaked with tears. Mom, we're so sorry! She crashed into me, sobbing against my shoulder like she hadn't done since she was 7. Ryan followed, wrapping his arms around both of us, his body shaking. We were so wrong, Harper gasped. Dad showed us fake pictures, fake everything. We believed him because he was your father, I said quietly, and you trusted him. Ryan pulled back, eyes red. Can you forgive us, please? We were horrible to you. I looked at my children, these people I'd carried in my body, raised with my hands, loved with everything I had, even when they'd turned against me. Harper, who'd called me pathetic. Ryan, who'd avoided my eyes. "You're still my children," I said carefully. "I will always love you. But trust, respect, those have to be earned back." Harper nodded frantically. "We'll do anything. Therapy, family counseling, whatever you need." Behind us, the FBI was leading Marcus out. He saw us, tried to call out. "Harper! Ryan, don't believe—" "Shut up, Dad!" Harper screamed, shocking everyone. "You're a liar and a thief. You made us hurt the only parent who actually loved us." Marcus's face crumpled. In that moment, he lost everything that actually mattered. Not the money or the company, but the adoration of his children. "Come on," I said, guiding them toward the exit. "We have a lot to talk about, but not here. This isn't our circus anymore." The FBI led Marcus and Jessica out through the main entrance, where a wall of media waited. Every major network, financial publication, and tech blog had arrived, the perp walk of the century in Silicon Valley. "Mr. Paxton, did you steal $50 million? Jessica, is it true you're already married? Marcus, how do you respond to fraud charges?" Marcus kept his head down, but Jessica tried to hide her face, stumbling in her designer heels. The red dress that had announced her power that morning now looked like a costume for her downfall. As they passed me in the lobby, Marcus suddenly yanked against his handlers. "You'll get nothing," he shouted at me. "My lawyers will destroy you. You're nobody. You've always been nobody." Agent Morrison leaned into him. "Actually, Mr. Paxton, she gets everything. The prenup you signed guarantees it. Plus, as our key witness, she qualifies for the SEC whistleblower reward, 30% of recovered funds." The math was simple and devastating. 30% of $50 million. $15 million, I said quietly, plus 80% of our marital assets, plus the house that was bought with my inheritance. The cameras caught every word. Marcus's empire, built on lies and theft, had made me wealthy beyond anything he'd planned to leave me. The $5,000 a month in alimony he'd offered so generously, I'd make that in interest in a week. "No," Marcus whispered, the fight draining from him. "No, no, no." They loaded him into the federal vehicle, Jessica in a separate car. As they drove away, someone started slow clapping. Then another. Soon, half the investors who'd almost been defrauded were applauding. Not for the arrests, for the woman who'd brought down a $500 million fraud with nothing but patience, intelligence, and 15 years of paying attention. 6 months later, the sentences came down. I sat in the federal courthouse, Harper and Ryan beside me, as Judge Catherine Brooks read the verdicts. Marcus Paxton, on 17 counts of wire fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, and conspiracy to defraud investors. This court sentences you to 18 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole for the first 12 years. Marcus, in his orange jumpsuit, looked like he'd aged a decade. His lawyer had tried everything: plea deals, character witnesses, even an attempt to blame me for entrapment. None of it worked. The evidence was overwhelming. Jessica Wang, on 12 counts of conspiracy, fraud, and financial crimes, 10 years federal prison. Additionally, due to your immigration status and the nature of your crimes, you will be deported upon completion of your sentence. Jessica sobbed. Her husband, her legal husband, had divorced her the day after her arrest. Her family in China had disowned her. She'd lost everything, including the false identity she'd built. The company liquidation was complete. 500 employees lost their jobs, though I'd set up a fund to help them transition. The investors who'd almost lost millions sent me thank you notes. One even offered me a position at his firm. The media coverage was extensive. The wife who brought down Silicon Valley's greatest fraud. From invisible to invincible, the Evelyn Paxton story. How a discarded wife saved 200 investors from ruin. But the most important document wasn't a news article. It was the custody agreement. Marcus had lost all parental rights. The children who'd once conspired against me were now solely mine. 18 years, Harper whispered as we left the courthouse. He'll miss everything. Graduation, college, weddings. He made his choices, I said. Now he lives with them. The financial resolution exceeded even my lawyer's expectations. The prenup, ironclad and incontestable, delivered exactly what it promised. 80% of everything Marcus thought was his became mine. The house in Palo Alto, $3.2 million in value, returned to my sole ownership. The investigation proved it had been purchased entirely with my mother's inheritance. The cars, the art collection, the wine cellar Marcus had been so proud of, all mine. The SEC whistleblower reward was processed in record time. $15.3 million deposited into my account with a thank you letter from the commission. Your courage and detailed documentation prevented catastrophic losses for hundreds of investors. But I didn't keep it all for myself. I set aside $5 million for a fund to help the laid-off Technova employees. Another $2 million went to organizations supporting women rebuilding after financial abuse. The rest I invested wisely, something I'd learned during those 15 years of managing our household finances. I reopened my law practice, but with a specific focus: Paxton Law, Second Chances Specialist. I help spouses, mostly women, who've been blindsided by divorce after sacrificing careers for family. My first client was Catherine, the VC's wife who'd recognized me at the IPO disaster. Her husband, inspired by Marcus's attempt, had tried something similar. With my help, she walked away with 70%. My office is in downtown Palo Alto, 15th floor, with a view of the bay. The nameplate on my door is bronze, substantial, permanent. Every morning when I trace my fingers across Evelyn Paxton, attorney at law, I remember the woman who was told she contributed nothing. The $5,000 a month Marcus had generously offered in alimony. I make that in 3 hours of billable time now, and every check I deposit is made out to my name, only my name. The path to healing with Harper and Ryan wasn't instant or easy. Trust, once shattered, requires patient reconstruction, piece by careful piece. Harper wrote a public letter, posted on Medium, that went viral. I betrayed my mother for a lie, a daughter's apology. She detailed how Marcus had manipulated them, took responsibility for her cruelty, and ended with, "My mother gave up a brilliant career for us." I called her pathetic. The only pathetic one was me. She got a job at a local bookstore, insisting on paying her own expenses. "I need to understand what it means to earn things," she told me. Every paycheck, she'd show me the deposit slip, proud of money that was truly hers. Ryan's journey was quieter but equally profound. He deleted all his social media, quit the coding club Marcus had pushed him into, and joined the school's legal debate team instead. "I want to understand how you think, Mom," he explained. "How you saw what we all missed." Family therapy every Wednesday. Dr. Chen guided us through the betrayal, the pain, the slow reconstruction of relationships. The first time Harper said, "I was so wrong about you, Mom," without prompting, I cried for an hour. They visited Marcus once, against my advice but with my blessing. They needed to see him in prison orange, behind glass, to fully understand what he'd done. Harper told me later, "He tried to blame you, said you set him up." That's when I knew he'd never really loved any of us. 6 months after the arrest, Ryan asked if he could take my last name instead of Marcus's. "Paxton was your name first," he said. "I want to be a Paxton like you, not like him." The legal name change was approved last week. Ryan Paxton. Harper's considering the same. 1 year later, life had settled into something I'd never imagined during those dark days at the Comfort Inn. Success, it turns out, is the best revenge. But peace is even better. Paxton Law had expanded to 3 attorneys and 2 paralegals. We'd handled 47 cases, recovering over $30 million for blindsided spouses. My favorite victory, helping a surgeon's wife discover her husband's 7-year affair and securing her 90% of their assets thanks to a morality clause he'd insisted on including. Marcus sent a letter from federal prison last month. I recognized his handwriting on the envelope, still so confident, even from behind bars. I returned it unopened, refused, written in red ink. Sarah asked if I was curious. Not even slightly, I told her, and meant it. I'd started dating again, carefully, slowly. David Chen, no relation to Sarah, a widowed federal prosecutor who understood both my work and my boundaries. He'd never once suggested I should move on or forgive and forget. When Harper met him, she said, "He looks at you like you're brilliant, Mom. Dad never did that." The 42 missed calls from that first week, they'd turned into hundreds over the months. Marcus's family, his colleagues, former friends who'd ignored me for years, all suddenly desperate to hear my side. I deleted them all. My side was in the court documents, the FBI files, the SEC testimony. That was enough. Jessica Wang was serving her time in a federal facility in Texas. I heard through legal channels that she'd tried to write a tell-all book from prison. The publisher withdrew the offer when they learned I owned the rights to the story, a detail buried in the prenup Marcus had never fully read. Some nights, I stood in my kitchen in my house, and marveled at the journey. 15 years, that's how long I'd been invisible, dissolved into the roles of wife and mother, until even I'd forgotten where Evelyn ended and Marcus's wife began. But here's what I learned. Those years weren't wasted. They were preparation. Every budget I balanced while Marcus played CEO taught me forensic accounting. Every school event I organized alone showed me project management. Every slight I endured with a smile gave me the patience to wait for the perfect moment to strike. I wasn't doing nothing. I was becoming everything I needed to be. The sacrifice of my law career? It hurt then. But the woman who walked into that Ritz-Carlton ballroom was stronger than the 25-year-old Harvard graduate who'd thought a corner office defined success. That girl would have fought Marcus immediately, emotionally, and probably lost. This woman waited, documented, and destroyed him with his own weapons. Your worth isn't determined by others. I tell this to my clients now, women who sit across from me with the same shocked expression I'd worn that birthday morning. It's not in your husband's perception, your children's respect, or society's validation. It's in your knowledge, your strength, and your ability to stand up when everyone expects you to stay down. The money was nice. I won't pretend otherwise. Financial freedom after 15 years of dependency felt like breathing after drowning. But the real victory was smaller, quieter. The moment I signed those divorce papers without shaking, knowing I held all the cards while they celebrated their perceived win, Marcus thought he was discarding worthless baggage. Instead, he freed a federal witness with 15 years of inside knowledge and nothing left to lose. That's not a mistake. That's karma with a law degree and a very good memory. If you're watching this and seeing yourself in my story, here's what I need you to know. First, document everything. Every email, every text, every financial transaction. Store copies in places only you know about, cloud accounts, safety deposit boxes, trusted friends' homes. Evidence is power, and power is freedom. Keep your professional licenses active, even if you're not using them. Those continuing education credits I took every year, they saved my life. That dormant law degree became my sword and shield. Your skills don't expire just because someone tells you they're worthless. Always, always have your own bank account. I don't care how much you trust your spouse. I don't care if they say it's not romantic or you're planning for failure. Financial autonomy isn't cynicism, it's self-respect. Even if it's just a few $100s, it's yours. Know your rights. Read every document you sign. That prenup Marcus insisted on to protect us both? I read every line, understood every clause. He signed it thinking he was the smartest person in the room. Arrogance makes people sloppy. Build your network independently. Sarah Smith saved my life. A friendship I'd maintained despite Marcus calling her that aggressive feminist friend. Your relationships are yours, not subject to your spouse's approval. Trust your instincts. The moment something feels wrong, it probably is. That perfume on his shirt, those hushed phone calls, the sudden criticism of everything you do. These aren't small things. They're warnings. Finally, remember this. Leaving isn't losing. Whether it's divorce, separation, or just reclaiming your identity within marriage, choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't live as someone's shadow. Ladies, gentlemen, anyone watching, you are not property, you are not an accessory. You are complete, valuable, and powerful, entirely on your own. March 15th came around again. My 39th birthday. No ambush this time, no lawyers with briefcases, no family conspiracies. Instead, I woke to breakfast in bed, prepared by Harper and Ryan with only minor smoke alarm incidents. We wanted to replace the memory, Harper explained, setting down French toast, slightly burnt, but made with love. Last year was the worst birthday ever. This year should be the best. The dining room table, the same one where I'd signed those papers, was covered with cards from clients I'd helped, colleagues who respected me, friends who'd stood by me. Sarah brought champagne, David brought flowers. Even Agent Morrison stopped by with a card from the FBI Financial Crimes Unit. Happy birthday to our favorite whistleblower. The cake Harper made from scratch said, Mom, Escar in blue frosting. Because you're not just Mom, she explained. You're Evelyn Paxton, attorney at law. You're everything. Ryan had framed my Harvard law degree, the one they'd found in the attic during the investigation. This is going in our living room, he announced. Everyone who visits should know who you really are. As I blew out 39 candles, I didn't make a wish. What could I possibly want? My children had returned to me, humbled but genuine. My career was reborn, stronger than before. My ex-husband was serving year 2 of 18. His mistress was in federal prison, her designer clothes traded for orange cotton. What did you wish for? Ryan asked. Nothing, I said, and meant it. When you've lost everything and built it back better, what's left to wish for? Harper hugged me tight. We love you, Mom, the real you. The brilliant, strong, slightly scary when crossed you. That was the moment I truly won. Not in the courtroom or the FBI raid, but at my dining room table, surrounded by people who finally saw me. Sometimes the worst betrayal becomes the greatest gift. Marcus, Jessica, even my own children, they thought they were destroying me. Instead, they revealed me. The lawyer who'd been sleeping for 15 years woke up hungrier and sharper than ever. They gave me divorce papers on my birthday. I gave myself freedom. They called me pathetic and worthless. I proved that worth isn't granted by others, it's claimed by yourself. They took my identity as wife and mother. I reclaimed my identity as Evelyn Paxton, complete human being. Would I change what happened? That's the wrong question. The right question is, would I change who I became because of it? Never. The woman who emerged from that betrayal is someone I actually like. She has boundaries. She has self-respect. She helps other women find their power. She doesn't apologize for existing. Marcus is serving 18 years. Every single day of those 18 years, he'll know that the woman he discarded as nothing is living his dream life. Successful, wealthy, respected. His children call me their hero and changed their last names to distance themselves from him. His company is a cautionary tale taught in business schools. His legacy is a federal case number. Thank you, Marcus, for setting me free. That prenup you made me sign became your confession. The affair you thought was discreet became evidence. The wife you made invisible became the witness who brought down your empire. Prison orange suits you better than that CEO suit ever did. To everyone watching, remember that sometimes the person who betrays you is actually showing you exactly who you are, someone too powerful for them to handle any other way. When someone tries to destroy you and fails, that's not survival, that's victory. Thank you for listening to my story. If you or someone you know is being undervalued, abused, or dismissed, remember, you're stronger than you think. Document everything, know your rights, and never apologize for standing up for yourself. If this video inspired you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories about karma, justice, and the power of patience. Comment below, where are you watching from and what part resonated with you most? Until next time, remember, the best revenge is massive success. Peace out and stay powerful.